Greetings, my fellow freedom-loving sovereign thinkers. Thank you for tuning in to LL3 Podcast. My name is Craig, transmitting from the beautiful swampy mangroves of South Florida. And today's date is Monday, June 8th, 2020. Yes, I have done an earlier show today pertaining to the USS Liberty Remembrance 53 anniversary of what has occurred, a false flag attack. So, watching more of the rhetoric. Even though I go to the place I go, I just get my food, and they all have it on the sports channels talking about George Floyd. How he's going to make waves, changes on what has happened. Like I said before, I am not fond of his past history. And a lot of his actions is very disturbing, including home invasion and putting the firearm on a woman's stomach when she was pregnant. But what happened to him was unacceptable. Okay, I just make that claim, make that statement, so can't say a damn thing about it. Of course, many folks believe he was an actor, crisis actor, because of a closed casket, which I have to question. Why a closed casket? That is a legitimate question people should ask. Why have a person that had all these checkered past and violate people's spaces becomes a martyr? See, when I make these statements on my past episodes and stuff I post, is the bigger, broader cause of police brutality, corruption, tyranny. That's what I focus on. And I talked to, if you heard some of my shows recently, talked about these things. It's not ethnical, it's ethical, what they're doing. Folks, from victims of all walks of life, regardless of what they look like, have been deceased from these sons of bitches' actions. The rogue elements, to be exact. And of course, they want to disband the Minneapolis Police Department. And I would recommend restructure, reform. That is interesting because it happened in Camden a while back. The Camden County Police Department. They had to do a lot of overhaul. And it looks like their claims that they feel a little bit better. May not be perfect, but it's a lot better than before. So, I'm going to have to look more further into that and see how the folks in Camden really feel about the police now. It's got to be more community-orientated instead of saying everyone out there is the enemy. As a part of the New World Order coup is, my friend, they're all provocateurs from all multiple avenues. And don't fall for it. I was listening to Sibel Edmonds from Newsbuds on the Resist the Coup alert. It's pertaining to information she received. Expect some false flag attacks. They're going to try to focus on the Muslims and the Hispanics and blame it on the white people, the Trump supporters. Don't fall for it. Remember what happened on 9/11. They want to blame the extreme Muslims, or they call it the Muslims, for that, which is irrelevant and a monumental lie, just to give you an example. Yes, I've been a 9/11 truther for a long time, and there's not a damn thing you can do about it. So we're going to talk about a few more topics pertaining to the New World Order coup, and is mainly conscription. Tyrannical conscription. We could use it that way. That would be the thing to do. So, that'll be the title. We'll just do a couple of topics here on this matter. And this one came out earlier yesterday, which is based out of Australia. This is here by Caitlin Johnstone. 5 reasons why people defend police brutality. I love the photo of some guy licking a boot. As protests against police brutality are met with an unceasing barrage of police brutality, the Escurus, boot-licking copulagia in online discussion forums have been cranked up to 11. I've written a couple of articles touching on the police assault and hospitalization of 35-year-old lifelong activist Martin Gugino and the batshit insane arguments I've been encountering to justify this self-evidently unjustifiable occurrence have been absolutely jaw-dropping. People have been using some of the dumbest arguments I have ever seen on the internet to claim Gugino staged his injury. They've been spamming a bogus article by the odious disinfo blog, The Conservative Treehouse, which claims, citing literally no evidence whatsoever, that Gugino was attempting to capture the radio communication signature of Buffalo police officers, assuming on a basis whatsoever that the Spadugeneran would need to be within touching distance of the police in order to do such a thing. Mostly, though, they've been saying that Gugino deserved to be shoved by the officers. He shouldn't have gotten in their path, they object. No, bootlicker, it is okay to assault someone just because they're in your way and you're wearing a badge. Don't shove people, much less senior citizens who could be injured and die. You should have learned not to shove people in preschool. Well, obviously, if you get too close to the police moving around like that, they're going to give you a shove, they argue. Goodness gracious, there's a lot of bending over going on, and Catlin would attest to that. Yes, police do often physically assault people for inexcusable reasons. Thank you for confirming the problem the grown-ups are trying to solve here. Stop interrupting adult conversations designed to accomplish that. And this is here says, back to blue, but it's okay to get screwed by them. Why do people do this? Why, whenever there's a video of police brutality, no matter how clearly and obviously wrong it is, are there always people falling all over themselves to try and justify or spin it has something acceptable or illusory, Clearly always without a single solitary exception. Well, here are 5 reasons. 1. The just world fallacy. One reason is because of a glitch in human cognition, known as the world hypothesis or just world fallacy, which causes us to assume that if bad things are happening to someone, it's because that person deserves it. Guilty until proven innocent. Blaming the victim is more psychologically comfortable than seeing that we live in an unjust world where we could very easily become victim ourselves someday, and we select for that comfort over rational analysis. It allows us to feel as though we're in control of our fate. In the early 1960s, a social psychologist named Melvin Lerner discovered that test subjects had a curious tendency to assign blame for an unfortunate event to the victims, even when said event couldn't logically have been their fault, and to assign positive attributes to people who received good fortune, even if their fortune was due solely to random chance. Lerner theorized that people have an unconscious need to organize their perceptions under the fallacious premise that the world is basically just, where good things tend to happen to good people and bad things tend to happen to bad people. Nothing in a rational analysis of our world tell us that this assumption is in any way true, but tests by Lerner and subsequent social psychologists have backed up this theory that most of us tend to interpret events through the lens of this irrational assumption anyway. People are more comfortable believing they live in a controllable and just world. So when a cop brutalizes someone, they need to start blaming the victim to maintain that psychologically comfortable perspective. Acknowledging reality is less comfortable. This is why people often start babbling about how a rape victim should have been wearing that or should have been better than to get so drunk, should have used self-defense techniques X, Y, and Z. Is why people justify the brutalization of Julian Assange. Is why people excuse the abusive things the U.S. government does to nations which dare to disobey its dictates, and why anytime video footage of controversial police killings goes viral with comments always flooded with people saying the victim should have known better than to get down on the ground and slowly reach for his wallet so quickly. Yes, because everyone becomes an expert. They know the world. The fetish J whoopies, right? The alternative is being real with yourself and accepting the uncomfortable reality that we live in an unpredictable and out of control world where bad things can happen to good people. Many people don't know how to live life that courageously. And there's a video on that too. You can check it out for yourselves. 2, propaganda. Because journalists often rely on statements by police departments in order to report on news events. There is so much closer relationship between the news media and the people than there is between the news media and activists or the rank and file civilian population. This puts the police responsible for public relations in a prime position to advance narratives that put a much friendlier face on the cops than they have earned. This combined with the dynamic of access journalism, a fact that the news media are owned by billionaires with a vested interest in keeping their fortunes and assets protected by a militarized police force, enable police to control the dominant narrative about them. Most Westerners have also been indoctrinated throughout the entire lives by movies and TV shows about heroic cops saving the day from villainous bad guys. The wealthy class which makes these movies and shows have built their kingdom upon status quo whose existence depend upon a violent force controlling the world internationally and a violent force controlling the nation domestically. So mainstream consciousness is constantly saturated in stories about the military and police being awesome and virtuous. So it's no wonder we constantly see the same mainstream consciousness scrambling to defend depraved acts by people they've been trained to propaganda to regard as beneficent heroes. 3, white privilege. One moment. Here's a little tweet. The following is my husband Tim's account on witnessing the police shooting of Oscar Grant on January 1st, 2009. The weirdest thing about it was how unsurprising the actual shooting was when it happened. This how far the police had already escalated things by then. We've been lying to ourselves if we pretended there isn't also a major racial component to a lot of this. I recently shared my husband Tim's account of witnessing the police shooting a black man named Oscar Grant in 2009 and watching white people rush to excuse something he knew for a fact to be completely inexcusable, while black people, who are statistically much more likely to be victimized by police violence, were unable to maintain any illusions about what happened. Let's not kid ourselves about the major reason the conservatives have been fanatically trying to manage the narrative about Martin Gugino more than other victims in these protests. They understand the footage of a frail old white man being assaulted and injured by police is having a much bigger impact on a large chunk of the population than seeing people of color assaulted. For many Americans, black people being brutalized by police is seen consciously or unconsciously as normal. Consciously or unconsciously is seen by many as just a thing that you do with black people. Bootlickers with any awareness, perception, management would understand for their cop defending agenda is jeopardized far more by the footage of Gugino than the countless other brutalities victims at these protests. People of color are trying to change this underlying inequality of perception, and a lot of the pushback they're receiving is due to a reflective defensiveness around maintaining that inequality. If you've been parking your car on your neighbor's front lawn for a very long time, so long you forget that it wasn't your parking space to begin with, it will feel like a major imposition for the neighbor to tell you it is time to find somewhere else to park. You feel like you're the victim. That's how attempts to address racial inequality are experienced by many white people. People of color haven't been permitted to occupy a human-sized amount of space in our society, so when they start moving into their own whole property, it feels to many white people like a cruel eviction. That's how completely innocuous phrase like Black Lives Matter gets interpreted, something threatening like Black Lives Matter more than white lives. When all of you know is the up power position, elevating in those down power positions can feel like something is being taken away from you, so you get defensive. Hey, this is why I despise all forms of tyranny, and we all are victims of it in different methods. So I will continue on here. Fear of others. There's a Heimlich maneuver on police apologists. Get the boot out. That's good. Many people are generally terrified of other people. Find authoritarianism is a soothing protection from the scary hordes of humans their ideology has had them othering. We have respect for authority drilled into us from early childhood. If we don't really grow up, we'll perceive a disrespect of authority figures as extensionally threatening. 5. Fear of change. Lastly, people are just afraid of change. The police play a crucial role in gluing this oppressive status quo together, and radically changing their role in society will necessarily mean an end to the status quo. And add in the fact that we are obviously plunging into a time of great change for better or for worse. And people will instinctively scramble to hold the old order together out of fear. Change is always stressful, whether it's good or bad. People experience stress when they lose a job or a loved one, but they also experience it when getting married or starting their dream job. Yes, things are changing, and yes, we have a cognitive bias which favors stability over change, but we can't keep doing things the way we've been doing them. Our species is behaving too insanely. If we don't change very soon, we're going to destroy our ecosystem if we don't nuke ourselves first. I don't know what's going to happen, and that's okay. There's no sense of stressing ourselves out of trying to pace a doomed status quo back together. Let's plunge into the unknown with alertness and enthusiasm. And that's good because we have a conscious of awareness which is accelerating, folks. People are questioning. People are not buying the mainstream garbage media out there. It's happening not just in the United States, but worldwide. Even Australia, okay? It's how order out of chaos and mal havoc really is. This, folks, we cannot endorse exceptionalism. Gotta go things under common sense. What we're seeing right now is a big wave. Technology has made impact, control, or enhance, and people are utilizing it to counter the tyrannical system, not just here, but around the world, which is good. They may be watching us, but we're watching them. And I'm about to change, for example, with the police. Like I told everybody, I support reform, revise, or restructure. No more deputies of Nottingham. Get rid of the frivolous powers, illegal powers, a la asset forfeiture, the drug war, all little petty things, victims' crimes. That's one of the things we got to look at. And that's why the power for that, too, on petty crimes, no victim, no crime. Like a person has possession of cocaine, that's what happened with George Floyd. If there's no victim, how's that a crime? If you stole it to minors, yeah, then you got to do a law on that, penalize them for that, contributing to leakage to the minor. So I'll be very fair on that. But we can make that power too. Any BS laws, illegal laws, have been poorly implemented, you can say jury nullification, not guilty. Happened with the Mile 7, the Bundy Ranch, and even the embassy protectors in D.C. trying to defend Venezuelan's embassy. And you know what? It doesn't matter. It's irrelevant if you're for or against Maduro. I'm not making a statement. You know, people know me well enough. When it comes to government, I'm not really lovey-dovey. But they're found not guilty. The jury wouldn't convict them. You know what? That's awesome. Because regardless of what you think, when you got foreign agencies going into the embassy, that's an act of war. Okay? That is an act of war. So, always got to look at those areas and examine things a lot more thoroughly. Don't be a yes person. That's when it comes down to it. Vigilance. Eternal vigilance is the key to liberty. All right, so the next one here, pertaining to the coronavirus in the Philippines. This is by CTV News. It says here, no students in school without coronavirus vaccine, Philippines say. Yeah, look at that. Conscription and exceptionalism. That's part of the New World Order Coup. Manila, Philippines. Tens of millions of children in the Philippines will not be allowed back to school until a coronavirus vaccine is available. Officials announced Monday, saying that they may have to broadcast TV lessons on TV. Woo! Yes, brother. I will do as you say, big brother. Nations like France and South Korea began resuming face-to-face classes as they got their outbreaks under control, but Philippine authorities see the risk as too great. President Rodrigo Duterte, said last month that even if students could not graduate, they need to stay out of school to fight the spread of the disease. We will comply with the president's directive to postpone face-to-face classes until a vaccine is available, Education Secretary Leonor Brines said in a statement on Monday. Classes are to resume at the end of August, and teachers will use distance learning methods via the internet or TV broadcasts where needed, Briones added. Millions live in deep poverty in the Philippines and do not have access to computers at home, which is a key to the viability of online classes. Teacher and the school will have to adjust depending on the availability of the communications. Briones said in a press briefing, there has been a little public opposition to the postponement of face-to-face classes in the Philippines, where hundreds of new infections are being detected daily despite early and strict lockdown measures. Anyone under the age of 21 or anyone who lives with somebody in that group is generally not allowed outside their home unless they are getting essentials or headed to work. Online environment. Enrollment over the 25 million primary and secondary students started earlier this year, month for a delay to start for the school year, which normally runs from June to April in the Philippines. Scientists around the world are racing to develop a coronavirus vaccine, but it is not clear when a viable candidate will be proven and distributed on a large scale. One of the contenders is from British pharma giant AstraZeneca, which said last week that it is on track to begin rolling out a vaccine in September if ongoing trials prove successful. All right, so you're going to have more of a police state. Give me a shot. Yes, thank you, Master. May have another. And you know what? Expect more people may die from it. We're going to get some of these coronaviruses, like the ones that by Pilbara Institute, which is patented. Their viruses are used to cure infectious diseases. So it's very going to be interesting here. But remember, You gotta do it for your own good. Yes, master, may I have another? Please, master, I will do it for your own, I'll do it for my own good. That's how it is right now in the Philippines. And remember, folks, it's happening everywhere. New World Order coup, right? We're gonna do one more here. It's by the reactionarytimes.com, and it came out today. It's by Daniel Wass. 2-minute read. The political left lusts for violence and control of guns. When I say violence, when I say gun violence doesn't exist, some people look at me cross-eyed because the term has become so common in media and left-wing talking points. The truth, there's no such thing as gun violence. Gun violence doesn't exist. It is a made-up, nomenclature created as a tool to demonize guns in the pursuit of more gun restrictions of lawful Americans. You know what? I have to agree on that. As we call it, violent crime, not gun violence. It's like a bunch of beakers. And then we'll go. You know, beakers on parade. So we'll continue on here. Is it possible a gun to be violent? Violence can only come from people. What the gun grabbers are really talking about is human violence. But if the discussion were focused on human violence, we would all be forced to work on solving problems that cause people to act violently. The gun grabbing left does not want to do that for two reasons. Number one, it doesn't help their pursuit to demonize guns and implement more gun restrictions. Number two, focusing on human violence would expose their culpability in its perpetuation. If we were talked about human violence, we would be forced to talk about gangs, mob violence, terrorist groups like Antifa, open borders, sanctuary cities, welfare dependency, fatherless homes, abortion, foreign terrorism, and drugs, both legal and illegal. These are all things the left directly or indirectly support. So anytime violence occurs and a gun is used, the left will call it gun violence to keep the spotlight off of them and to get the latest gun restriction passed in Congress. Gun restrictions causes more good people to be unarmed and helpless, resulting in more gun-related deaths because we know the bad guys pay no attention to restrictions. Then they use a number of gun-related deaths to push even more gun restrictions. If they really wanted to solve the problem of death and violence in America, wouldn't they join us in abolishing the gun-free zone, for instance? Ever since Joe Biden introduced the Gun-Free Zones Act, and it was signed into law, school killings have nearly doubled. Yes, Rico X #1 fan, Joe, I'm a New World Order butt boy, Biden, who's running for president. The anti-gun left capitalizes those preventable attacks to push for even more gun restrictions. Some would argue that they don't really want the problem of human violence to go away. Yes, you're going to hear a train go by. Just bear with me here. Okay, cool. The left's lust for human violence is real. This is why you see them doing nothing to stop the rioters in the streets of Democrat-run cities across the country during the time of massive riots, violence, looting, and burning down of buildings across the country. The political left doesn't try to stop it. They actually call for defunding of police departments while walking the streets themselves in protest of the very problem they perpetuate. And you know what? They'll blame Donald Trump for it. And I'm not a Trumpster, but he's all his fault. He's responsible. That's how these parasites or psychic vampires think. They use a false narrative, dishonest media, and vague terms to keep the problem alive while pretending to fight against it. You've heard them say things like, we need to tear down the system and rebuild it from the ground up. How exactly do they propose to do this? They'll never tell you because they have no idea. but they do need to be perceived as the righteous justice warriors in the eyes of those who don't know any better. How about when they say we need to imagine the police department? What exactly does that mean? The answer is nothing. The term reimagine the police department means absolutely nothing. And they know it. That's why I support revising, reforming. Not how these dingleberries think. They know you will never be able to define it, and they know they will never be called out on it, out of the fear of people of being labeled a racist. You know what? Call them out. They call you a racist. You can counter it. When bend over bobs or chooses cracks become a race, then we'll talk. That's how you get them, folks. Trust me, I've used it, and they look like deer staring at headlights. Like a zombie. Ever seen that movie, Shaun the Dead? Exactly. These are vague terms that they create so they can continue to perpetuate. Oops, sorry about that. I'm just like I goofed up here. No, perpetuate the problem of human violence without the possibility of a solution. It would seem that the political left doesn't want human violence to go away. They don't want to take away your guns and make. They do want to take away your guns and make the police departments weak and ineffective. So when they talk about systemic racism, institutional racism, gun violence, and re-imaging the police department, what they are really saying is, we don't really want to fix the problem of human violence, so we're giving you meaningless terms that you will never be able to define, so the problem will never be solved. Human violence in America serves us well politically, and we don't really want it to stop. These are the people our founders warned us about. That's why the Second Amendment was written. And don't forget the 9th and the 10th. Checkmate, tic-tac-toe, 3 in a row. And Dan Watts is absolutely correct. See, what these nitwits want you to speak about is nothing more than micro solutions that shall become mega problems. So, you know what? And I'm critical towards certain elements of the police departments, even in the city of Fort Lauderdale, even the Broward Sheriff's Office, but I'm not going to crucify the entire system. Yes, there is a lot of too much carte blanche on their on past actions, and that has to stop. That's why revising is essential. Not disbanding completely and don't have a new idea. So those are the areas we should all look at. Yeah, because another thing is, folks, if you believe in getting rid of the police department as a whole in your town, you better be armed and ready, because if all hell breaks loose, you'll be wishing, hey, I need assistance. If you're not stocked up and ready to go, you're just a dead duck. Roadkill. And you know what? Underdog's not going to help save you either. Alright, that is it. I'd like to thank everyone for listening. Plus, feel free to download and share us throughout your social media networks. If you have any questions, comments, or maybe something that's interesting you want to check out, whatever you do, please feel free. I send your correspondence to Decorum. Furthermore, I will leave all the footnotes of this episode on my Spreaker page. Interested in donations? If you want to donate, you can send it to me at paypal.me/LokiLuck3. It's all together. Once again, thank you for your time. Plus, always remember that demoniac resistance is healthy for the soul and can liberate humanity. Until next time, take care of yourselves. Keep on spreading the love, and may your guardian spirits be with you.